Have you ever noticed that you can't even brush your teeth without a YouTube video playing in the background? Or that you can't drive 5 minutes to the grocery store without a podcast or playlist filling the cabinet? We tell ourselves we're learning or we're staying productive. We call it background noise. But let's be honest, it's actually a rescue mission. You're rescuing yourself from the silence. Because the moment the audio stops, when the hum of the world dies down, something else starts to rise. A static, a weight, a persistent nagging feeling that you are standing on the edge of a vast, empty canyon. You aren't addicted to the noise. You're allergic to what the silence reveals. You're running from a ghost that only appears when it's quiet. Hi, I'm Jay. Stick around and I'll explain noise addiction and why your inability to be alone with your thoughts is the most dangerous symptom of this modern age. In the ancient world, silence was viewed as a luxury. It was the soil in which wisdom grew. But in the digital age, silence has been rebranded as a threat. Why? Because silence is a mirror. When you remove the external stimulation, the political outrage, the low-fee beats, the hustle advice, you're left with the one person you've spent your entire life trying to distract: yourself. In the quiet, the questions you've been suppressing starts to find their voice. What am I doing with my life? Why am I so lonely in a room full of people? Is there any meaning to all of this? We use noise as an anesthetic. If you keep the volume high enough, you can't hear the structural cracks in your own worldview. We're a generation that is spiritually hollow, but we find a way to fill the hollowness so fast that it feels solid. We call it content. So the philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quiet in a room alone." That was written in the 1600s. Imagine what he'd say today. We fear silence because we fear the emptiness. We've been raised in a culture that defines us by what we consume and what we produce. If you aren't consuming or producing, who are you? For many of us, that answer is a terrifying blank space. So we scroll, we listen, we double speed our way through life. We have become noise junkies, needing an ever-increasing dose of stimulation just to stay at baseline of not panicking. We are terrified that if the music stops, we realize we've been dancing in an empty ballroom for years. This is where cultural chaos comes in. The noise is an industry. You, the man searching for meaning, is being targeted by an economy that profits from your restlessness. If you become comfortable in the silence, you become dangerous to the system. You stop buying things that you don't need to fill holes you shouldn't have. You start noticing that hustle culture is just a treadmill to nowhere. The world needs you overstimulated. It needs you quietly alarmed, but not too distracted to do anything about it. It wants you to feel the emptiness, but look to a screen for the solution. We think the silence is empty. We think that's why it's scary. But what if the silence isn't empty at all? What if the reason you feel so uncomfortable in the quiet isn't because there's nothing there, but because there is someone there? What if the ghost you're running from in the silence isn't your own failure, but it's an invitation you aren't ready to accept? We use noise to drown out the most persistent voice in the universe, a voice that doesn't want your data, your attention, or your money. It just wants you. There's a reason we find self-confrontation so painful. When we sit in the silence, we don't just find meaning, we find our own brokenness. We see the ways we've lied to ourselves. We see the anger we haven't dealt with. We see the sin, that old-fashioned word for the way we miss the mark on our own potential. In the secular world, you have two choices: distract yourself from that brokenness with more noise, or drown in the shame of it. But there is a third way. In the Christian tradition, silence is the threshold of the sacred. It is where we encounter the Logos, the truth. When Jesus went into the wilderness for 40 days, he didn't go there to find himself. He went there to be tempted, to be stripped of all the noise, and to stand face to face with the reality of the Father. He showed us that silence is a meeting room and not a void. The reason the silence feels like a judgment to you right now is because you're trying to justify your own existence. You're trying to prove you're enough through this noise, but the gospel says you aren't enough, and that's okay. Because the one who meets you in the silence isn't a judge looking for a reason to condemn you. He is a father who has already paid the price for everything you're trying to hide. When you stop the noise, You finally hear the words you've been scrolling for your entire life. It is finished. You don't have to hustle for your soul. You don't have to distract yourself from your flaws. You can sit in the quiet because the loudest voice in the universe has already declared that you are loved, even in your emptiness. So, here's your challenge for the week. It's harder than any gym routine or 75 hard challenge. Tomorrow morning, don't reach for your phone. Don't turn on the news. Don't put on the podcast. Just sit for 10 minutes. Let the static rise. Let the scary questions come out of the shadows. Don't try to answer them. Don't try to fix them. Just stand there in the canyons of your own soul and realize that the ground beneath your feet is solid. The silence is the only place where the truth can actually find you. And that truth is Jesus. The digital decay stops when you choose to be present. The spiritual hollow begins to fill when you stop trying to pour digital garbage into it. Stop the noise. Start the life. In the next video, we'll talk about modern masculinity and try to answer a very hard question. What happened to us? But in the meantime, check out this series here. Also, if this video speaks to you and you're currently in this struggle, comment below so we can talk about it. But until next time, remember, there's an explanation for everything. Let's find it together. I'll see you in the next one.